I think you ought to know. Black Men's Radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's Men's Radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. Men's Radio, that's the place for you. With Russ, Kane, and Phil Dave.
Well, that's nice, isn't it?
He
Hello.
sent me...
Welcome to Friday.
Hello. Oh, God. Well, anyway, it's all plugged in now, like we just suggested. So there's absolutely nothing more we can do. That's
If you're
it.
wondering what Russell's referring to, unfortunately, there still
hello,
appears
Phil.
to be a
This
slight
is-
discrepancy in his internet connection.
Yes. You think?
So you may notice a slight gap between the two of us talking. Do
Yeah.
apologise for that.
Yeah, baby.
But on the plus side,
Yeah.
Paul Claridge says,
Is that any
good
better?
afternoon, everyone.
No, that's no better.
Hope you all have
Yeah,
a
on the
good
plus
week.
side.
Julie Voice. Hi, y'all.
Hmm.
From sunny Guildford.
And hi, y'all. Sonny Guildford. Yeah. Ding. Yeah.
And Robert Van Buren. Hello,
and
Russell.
Robert Van Buren, great friend of Neil Long, who's still somewhere in the... Yeah, he's still in the Caribbean, Neil Long. I hate him. Gets on my nerves. Anyway, this is everything that
Nice
we can
life if
possibly
you
do
can
to
have
make this internet connection even more fabulous than it normally is. What a week it has been.
Oh,
Full of ups, full of downs. On the plus side, I'm like 62,000 words into the novel, which has to be hilarious, Graham. That's hilarious. 62,000 words into the novel, which will be delivered hopefully by next week to my agent, because that's what everything is, and I'm just working literally till about midnight every night. I stop for dinner, and then I've stopped everything else, not going out super sexy, sunny. So, Phil, let's get to it. Harvard.
what a
Bunch
good
of
idea.
jerks or what?
I don't know if we can, but we'll try.
Yeah, we could try. Yeah. So, what do you think? Did you not hear me? Oh, this is just
Haven't heard a thing.
useless. You haven't heard? Jesus Christ. Harvard, bunch of jerks or what?
Oh, that, yeah, absolutely outrageous behavior. Horrendous.
Oh, well, this is fantastic. I'm actually plugged in. I just want to let everyone know I'm plugged into the Ethernet with direct wiring. So I'm not even using Wi-Fi. And this is what's happening. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. Phil, take over, please, dear fellow. Take over. I'm rebooting. Off.
No problem. Right. Well, he can go off and reboot, and then we will carry on regardless. I think what Russ is probably going to talk about is, in particular, is you have a look at Harvard, you have a look at other educational institutions. There was this rather curious clip that went round on social media this week about those who are in charge of some of the most revered and most respected educational institutions around the world. And in particular, they were asked, quite rightly, whether or not, if anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish feeling is against the rules and breaches conduct of their universities. 3 of these top leaders, when confronted by this member of Congress, whose name escapes me at the moment, basically refused to say yes or no. Now, the problem is, there are some people out there who think that the difference between saying yes and no is quite clever. So in other words, if they don't say yes to something, but they don't say no, then technically they keep everyone pleased. Well, who in this situation do you want to keep pleased? You are asking whether or not a group of individuals who are targeted for no other reason than their ethnicity, whether or not that's against the rule book. Could you imagine anyone else from any other background tolerating this? I couldn't. I personally think it's ridiculous to even think you have to keep everyone pleased in this situation, because if someone has the answer no to that question, just to reiterate, the question is anti-Semitism against the rules and regulations or breaching of code of conduct for those respective education institutions? If the answer is no, well, then naturally it's outrageous behavior. Of course it's outrageous, because then you've just basically admitted that there is an ethnic group of people who are excluded from the protection of the rules and regulations of that educational institution. Then if you turn around and say, yes, it is in the rule book, well, then that's the answer you're looking for. Yes, of course it breaches the code of conduct. Why wouldn't it? Because in exactly the same way that if you started having a go at someone for the color of their skin, exactly the same way you had a go at someone for being Muslim, of course it breaches the code of conduct. Why the hell wouldn't it? I would have thought we don't live in 1930s Germany anymore. That's just a thought. But apparently we do. I think we have Ross back.
We are in 1930s Germany, and they are. Oh, if we can't hear, I'm going to leave because it's embarrassing. And
we can hear you on a delay.
If you seriously can't hear me, Phil, I'm just going to leave you to do the show.
No, we can hear you on a delay.
Okay, right. What I was going to say is I managed to find the most fantastic thing, which I sent to everybody. And what it did is once you clicked it, it automatically sent emails to all the heads of the universities that have been so outrageously disgusting. And we flooded their inbox, and I to do that. And of course, yesterday you had that ghastly, rat-faced weasel who was smirking because she thought she was so clever. And then suddenly all the PR people and all her team had to go, oh, you can't say that. And she did this weaselly retraction way too late. And then this morning, the best news, $100 million donation cancelled to Harvard. Cancelled. And what will happen is that these universities, morally in decay, morally repugnant, appalling for people's mental health, appalling. And so they will fall into disrepute, which they already have. And they will build new universities where this garbage will not be allowed. And it's as simple as that. It really is. They've had their day. They've had their time. Cheerio. Goodbye. That's how it works. Chrissy Rickards in Spain says this, hello, boys. Just finished the last of the stew that I made 2 days ago. Christ, this is Radio BBC Norwich, isn't it? We have lots of rain. All right, well, that's good. That's coming from Spain, by the way. The Congresswoman who asked the questions is Elise Stefanik. It falls mainly on Ray Gelato, it would appear. Ray sent me a video of him. He's in short sleeve shirts. He's in Madeira doing a concert out there. Ray, of course, does our theme tune. And one of my best mates. The sky is blue, the sun is shining, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? What are we doing here in this godforsaken country? There must be other places to live that are going to be more pleasant than this. If you were stuck on the Elizabeth line.
Sure. This is the problem. You say that
there are other places. I know what you're saying.
I don't actually know that there is any more.
Oh, I wouldn't go to America anymore. I wouldn't go to America. That's done. It's finished. It's over. They're just waiting for the Civil War over there. I've no doubt. Absolutely, I've said it for years, and no one's actually disagreed with me. I've said this for years.
Yeah, but I hate to tell you, I think we're on the brink as well.
Oh, so I absolutely, it is a terrifying situation, Phil, and it's messing with my head. That you suddenly think, well, rather be with Tommy Robinson, a man that I have loathed for years. Or what's his real name? Oh God, Stephen Lennon. I've forgotten his middle name. It's a double-barreled name. But anyway, it goes on to the name
Stephen
of Tommy Robinson.
Yaxley Lennon.
I've loathed Tommy Robinson for years, and suddenly you think, well, I'd rather if I. That's it. Stephen Yaxley Lennon is Tommy Robinson's real name. And you know what? If you got to the stage in life when you think, I think if I've got to pick a side, I'm picking Tommy Robinson's side. How horrendous is that we've come to that crossroads? If you had to make a decision, it's extraordinary.
There is definitely something about that is mightily
voted
unpalatable and something that is just, it sticks in the craw, because the problem is if you've got someone like Tommy Robinson who is saying something for no other reason than just to get the clicks, just to actually get the attention, not because he necessarily genuinely believes something, there's a very sort of sad look at the world to think that that kind of person is who we're looking to at the moment to show the rest of the world a half decent way to think. It's just ridiculous.
The reason being, Phil, we are led by donkeys. The weakness, the pathetic caving in to utterly repugnant minority groups who want things to be done their way rather than the way that 95% of the population want things to be done their way. Just get on with our lives. Just get on with our lives. No. And we voted for Christmas, and I have zero sympathy because we've been saying this on the show for 5 years. It's madness. It's utter madness. And I never thought these days would come. It's just open. I mean, just open season. But there will be a pushback. There will come a time when there will be a pushback, and it will not be pretty. But they've had it coming. It's been coming a long time. It's been brewing a long time. There's only so long you can put up with this garbage. Only so long.
But you say that, but I think the problem you've got is that this is the reason why I believe there's been no pushback sooner, is because you're actually talking about the difference between decency and indecency, I believe.
Yeah.
And the problem is that when you are slowly but surely squashing the decent, it's going to take an awful lot for them to become indecent to retaliate. And that's why I think we've seen this push so far, because most people are quite civilized. Most people are quite level-headed. Most people know the difference between right and wrong. Most people know the difference between good and evil. And I'm afraid that when you keep suppressing the good, you keep suppressing the decent, you keep suppressing the decent people. What does it take before they have a breaking point and behave in an indecent manner to react to that indecent way of thinking?
We're there. It doesn't take anything else. We're already there. We're already there.
And are we? I haven't really seen any examples of it, really.
Well, well, there aren't any examples of it because I genuinely, and I hate to say this, there is a 2-tier policing system in the United Kingdom. Shocking. There is a 2-tier justice system in the United Kingdom. Unacceptable. How did we get to this crazy situation? Why do some people have a get out of jail free card and can do everything with impunity, and other people stray into a bus lane? Oh my God, it's the end of the world. Don't pay your BBC license fee? Whoa, we'll haul you off to court. Stand there screaming to cut somebody's head off? No, it's fine. Good luck. Let me hold your flag for you. Dave Sleet says this: universities have for hundreds of years sought to lead by their own agenda, created in their own echo chamber. Oh, Dave, you're so right. The relevance some of these people actually have in the real world is being shown. Finally, they are irrelevant. They're punks. They're punks with letters after their name. That's it. And now they're going to be hit. Oh, God's sake.
You're right.
No, you say to somebody, do not call me until at least 2:30 to discuss business. So they phone at 12:15. Well done.
Oh dear. Hilarious. Ross has yet to discover the Do Not Disturb feature. Should we leave you to it? Do you want to go grab your phone call?
No, I don't. They can wait. It's unimportant. It's not time sensitive. It's like the other thing that's really, really got to me this week, and I'd like your view on it, Phil, is you on Twitter are able, I don't mean you, I mean one, is able to report tweets that are clearly racist,
pointless,
hateful,
absolutely pointless,
hate-filled, ethnic slurs, etc., etc., etc. That is disgraceful. It is an utter, total waste. I have reported so many people who, as part of their banner, have swastikas.
Yep.
I've reported all of this. Oh, no, it may not be the answer you're looking for. I wrote to Elon Musk and I said, yeah, way to go, Elon. This is great. Well done. And stuff your Cybertruck. I mean, quite extraordinary. Why do you bother to have a system where you can show up the most appalling hate? That doesn't cross their boundaries. What would cross their boundaries?
Beyond abysmal. No, it's beyond abysmal. I've reported so many as well. And I got so close. There was one time when it came back saying, we think there could be a violation here. And as a result of it, we're going to suspend this account. Okay, happy days. Marvelous. Came back after reviewing. No, it hasn't violated any of our policy. But what policy is that? Sorry. The part of the policy of saying that you can openly call for the annihilation of Jews, the policy you can openly call for the annihilation of Israel as a country, the policy that sees that there are flags from America, from Israel, from the UK, other parts of Europe that are just openly burnt. That's fine. No problem there. Maybe the policy that says that you can have people who claim to be from parts of Gaza Strip who actually are holding dolls and saying, look how terrible it is that the IDF have killed these innocent children.
With the microphone wire visible. I mean, Jesus. With the microphone, I mean, these people, there's a new one. So they've got all these dolls. There's another one where they're putting the makeup on the dolls, these dumb idiots. My favorite this week, she's wearing, what is it called? The hijab. And it's meant to be they're all injured in hospital. And they've put the bandages not round her head, but round all the cloth. Come on. Jeez, this is the worst Amdram I've ever seen. It's worthy
and do you know what
of
it actually
Linda
does?
Snell's Christmas panto.
But do you know what it does? It actually undermines those who genuinely are losing their lives. This is what's so stupid.
Of course it does.
So you see, what happens is there are, without a shadow of a doubt, people on both sides who have innocent people who have lost their lives. And unfortunately, by dressing it up to be worse than it actually is, it means that people are going to struggle to believe you.
Well, they'd believe anything. But it wouldn't matter. Do you know what? Do you remember not long ago, the Manchester Arena with Ariana Grande got blown up by some maniacs? 42 people killed, I think it was, right? I genuinely think they could do it again and they'd still find excuses for it. That's the problem. That's the insanity that we're living with. And yeah, it affects you. And it's easy for people to say, well, don't go on Twitter, don't do that. But it's the real world. It's actually what is happening. You can't just stick your head in the sands and hope that it's okay, because it's not okay. No, if you don't take a stand, you're part of the problem.
Absolutely essential to go on Twitter and what have you. Primarily because if you don't, I'm afraid that this only festers and gets worse. If there is no one there to counter it, then we're asking for trouble.
It is endless. Well, Françoise puts it very politely and says this. She says it's dangerous. The wonderful Françoise Pascal, bonjour, says it's dangerous propaganda. It's disgusting propaganda. It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Some of the stuff on social media, I have to walk around and have a glass of water afterwards. It is that repulsive. It's just extraordinary. And it's fine. Say anything. But those people in the American universities have got everything coming to them. Everything coming to them that they fully deserve. They may have loads of letters after their name, but they're thick as mints in real life, and they're revolting. A lot of them. Despicable.
Well, I think, you see, the problem is that people are under the curious delusion that just because someone is educated, they can't be ignorant.
Mm.
You know,
Ain't that the truth?
No, but the bottom line is that you could be educated in a particular subject, but it doesn't mean you know all subjects very well. And who in their right mind does know all subjects very well? Well, no, you know what I mean. But who does know all subjects very well? But it's a very dangerous business, because the number of times that I've heard people say things, for example, if we change the subject, I would like to say something, one of climate change. The number of people who say, well, look at these top scientists have all said this. Well, you can say top scientists have said this, but what's that top scientist field and what's the evidence for it? Do you know what I mean? A top scientist, if my memory would serve me right, I'm fairly sure there were some fairly clever people who actually backed Hitler. It didn't mean that they were right.
Well, let's look at Werner von Braun for a start, the man who created the American space program effectively, which is why they did Operation Paperclip. Gave him immunity, brought in all his Nazi pals, and built up NASA. Brilliant. Well done. Of course they did. They put their own interests first. Never forget that. Leslie Ian Jones of Surbiton says this: I hope the authorities, you know who, are taking down all the hate on social media for future prosecutions. They won't do anything. They won't do anything. They get you for a traffic fine.
It's too much like hard work.
It's an effort. They can't even find how many people have gone missing. Do they say illegals? Was it 17,000? How many have they let in?
Thousands and thousands.
There's hundreds of thousands. They haven't a clue where they are. They don't have a clue who they are. They haven't done background checks. They've done nothing. Just come in and bring all your garbage with you. Please do. Please. It's insane. I mean, the countries, I don't want to be like this. But you get pushed and pushed and pushed endlessly. Eventually, you get pushed back. Enough now. Enough, just enough with this. It's putting people into a spin. You don't want to live in a country. And the interesting thing is, where would you go? Where would you go? Where would America? No, I don't think so. Not anymore. Stinks. Unless you went to somewhere like Montana in the middle of nowhere. What have we got here? Paul Clarish. Do you want to read this out, Philip?
A couple of years ago, I was on a bus in Croydon. Someone had used a marker pen to draw swastikas and write NF on the walls. And back to the seat of the upper deck. I took photos of the graffiti and reported it via email to the bus company in TfL. My email included the registration number of the bus. I got a message in reply saying thank you. They would look into it and would clean the graffiti. 6 weeks later, I was on the same bus and the same graffiti was still there. Nice.
Well done, TfL. Brilliant. Jesus. I don't know. It's fantastic, isn't it? But what about this? Certain buses not picking up passengers.
Oh.
Deliberately not picking up passengers. Well, here's what really puts my mind into a depressive spin. If it starts with ethnic minority bus drivers, which I presume, refusing to pick up passengers that they don't like, right? How long before you're in the NHS and a doctor or a nurse refuses to help you? Or supposing, take it to its nth degree. This is like worst case scenario. Supposing you're on the operating theatre and they decide they don't like you. Oh dear, just happened to nick an artery. Well, it happens, They're dead. Boo-hoo. I mean, this, you can take it as far as you want to go. You can. That's the problem. That's where we find ourselves. It's absolutely horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. What happened, for example, to the train driver on the tube here in London, UK, because I know people all over the world watch this. What happened to the train driver who began chanting horrendous chants?
So it's interesting
and
you say
encouraging
that.
The passengers. What happened to him?
I'm on top of that.
Oh,
I'm actually,
good.
as part of my work, I'm chasing TfL press office for it.
So
as things stand, the person in question is suspended pending an investigation. But
On full pay, presumably.
the response that I got was investigations take time and they have to come back to us in due course. So I will chase it up again, see where they're at. But fear not, I'm not letting it rest.
What takes the time? Were you driving the train? Yes. Did you do this because everyone can hear it? Yes. It should take about 35 seconds.
I couldn't agree more. But apparently processes need to be carried out. You know, this is actually the reason why, though, that I think this country is in such a diabolical state, is because that the way that people have to procrastinate now and dilly-dally over the simplest of decisions is just outrageous. If you've got a train driver whose voice is distinctively heard over a tannoy, who says something completely unthinkable to a train full of people,
recorded.
Right, those people who happen to be of, you know, maybe of sort of the same political opinion, but worse, those who are an opposite political opinion, even worse than that, possibly even Jewish, right? Think of what those passengers must have gone through. They were trapped underground listening to that nonsense. And you know, they want to carry out due process. No, it's not due process. Bin him. Off you go. Bye-bye. Done. Don't do that. Sacked. That's what the problem with this country is we take too flipping long to sort anything because we're terrified of either putting a foot wrong, health and safety, affecting people's state of mind, affecting their human rights. It is bonkers. Just get on with it. And if someone's proved to do something wrong, that's when you correct it.
Immigrant, right? And you create a major crime, boom, you should be out in 24 hours. None of this garbage, all led by, you know, you can trace it all back to Tony Blair and his wife and the Matrix chambers. I don't mean the Keanu Reeves Matrix. I mean the Matrix chambers who led all this. You can trace it all back to there and then follow the dots. It's extraordinary. If somebody's done something so horrendous, that they have stepped up, their rights have gone. Sling them out. End of. It's just madness. I just despair. That's why I've always, you know, people say, "Oh, are you political?" No, I'm a libertarian because they're all useless. They're all absolutely useless. The whole freaking lot of them. There's not one person with the guts to put themselves last and their constituents first. That's where it's at. That's really where it's at. Just madness. Just madness. Ho-hum. Thank you, Chrissy Richards. I mean, you know, you get to that and you think, well, maybe I'll just leave. Why should I leave my hometown? Why should I do that? Why should I be pushed out by people who don't care about anything except their own agenda? Why should I? Just want to live my life quietly. That's all I want to do. Write my books. That's it. Be a celebrant, write my books. That's it. That's what I want to do. Simple as that.
Graham says something interesting here. The inquiry into the train drive will finish at the same time as the COVID inquiry. You see, the problem is, though, Graham, is that as much as I agree we dilly-dally over certain things, the COVID inquiry, I think, is something different just because that's multifaceted. There's so many layers of complexity to that. That's why that needs proper investigation. But when you're talking about a train driver who is blatantly heard as saying something they shouldn't be saying, their colleagues must know their voice. I'm sorry, you know, how could you not know how a colleague sounds? It's very simple to identify.
It's simpler than that, Phil, because somebody said, yeah, well done to my uncle. Well, geez. Well, you don't have to be Hercule Poirot to track that guy down. You go round to the person who did the tweet, you interrogate the guy, and you find the uncle. I mean, God almighty, how tricky could it be? My dog could do that. And she's nearly 15 and sleeps. That's it. It's ludicrous. Tell me something. Do you have faith in the police anymore? This is what happens. This is the Kafkaesque nightmare, which has put so many people in a spin on a really deep existential level. I'm not talking about moaning and groaning. I'm talking about you look at the world and you see how it is and you despair. And that is an existential crisis. That's what it is.
Well, so the short answer
do you believe
to
in
that,
the police anymore?
Well, the short answer to that is no, absolutely not.
Right.
But mainly, the problem I have with the police is that I don't think that they are held to account properly. As in, like, what you actually want to do is you want to root out the good officers from the bad officers. And I'm afraid that people are so terrified now in the police force of being prosecuted for enforcing, and the word is enforcing, the law, that they don't want to enforce the law because they're scared of being criminally prosecuted themselves. And I kind of don't blame them for thinking like that. I think I would be as well. The police, although should follow the law, should also be immune from certain laws as well, because otherwise, how can they implement it? So I give you an example. It would not be possible for you and I, for example, to detain someone we suspect of doing something wrong using violence. We'd be charged, quite rightly, with GBH. But you can't have it so that police officers might run the risk of being charged with GBH. Now, I don't think they are, but there are other charges they do face potentially.
I get that.
And if you do that,
you're right.
Then it means the police officers, who are ultimately law enforcers, are terrified of breaking the law. It doesn't make sense. They need to, in some respect, be above it. In some respect.
In some respects. It's just the one good thing that's come out of all this absolute nightmare is this. All the phony masks have been dropped. And all the people who thought it all the time, but didn't feel brave enough to say it, now think they can do it with impunity. We see you, we know who you are, and we will not ever forget. Karma's a bitch. Just remember that. Let's up the mood. She's beatific. She is intellectual. She's an international judge both in China and in India. She's a gourmet-loving, globe-trotting, I don't know what else I'm going to say. She is the fabulous, you're going to have to bring her on because this is so slow, my system. Chantal Rickards.
There she is. Hello, Chantal.
What a lot of tripe you speak.
I don't think so. How dare
That's
you
nice.
say that?
I thought he was building you up quite nicely there.
I thought it was rather pleasant. I thought it was rather nice.
With a capital H.
Well,
Oh,
how are you? How lovely to see your smiley face. How are you, Chantal Rickards, OPE?
Well, actually, I've had a good week. I've had a crazily busy week. But I mean, I quite like a busy week. So, but this week would just seem to, there were lots of sort of early starts and then, silly amounts of Christmas parties going on. So fairly late finishes as well. So, but that's all good. That's what happens at this time of the year. So I've had a good week.
Christmas is really funny like that.
It's in contrast, I have turned down everything because I've got everything. I'm not doing.
Oh, we have
really. No, I really have.
He turned me down.
Yeah, I've turned down absolutely. This is a lovely comment coming in from Francois Pascal. Every time I look at Chantal, she reminds me of Doris Day, beautiful and elegant. Amen to that.
Hilarious.
No, there is a sort of wholesome. I can say this. It's not rude. There's a sort of wholesome.
She was a real goody two shoes, and I don't think I'm a goody two shoes. But
not when the vino has been flowing.
Indeed.
No, indeed. Now, I can honestly say, since we last spoke, I haven't watched any television whatsoever. I've simply been at my desk writing, so I have nothing on in terms of TV or films or anything to add. I have just seen my screen. This is my view of life. What have you?
Well, and you haven't been to the movies either.
No, I had to turn. Literally had to. I'll explain why, and I'll just get it out the way. Okay. In the publishing world, there are essentially seasons when the publishers start to look for the new books for 2024, 2025. If you miss that period, you are you're nowhere. You're sunk. You're in a canoe without a paddle. battle. So the agent has to have, which is somewhere between 80 and 120,000 words.
I wish
It
he'd
has
look
to
for a
have
new
it
internet
by
provider.
the end of next week. What? We'll
I
never
think
know
we
what
should
he's-
all save up to get you
yeah,
a
we
new
should.
internet hub.
Have a whip round and buy
No,
you an
it's. I
internet
don't even think
connection.
it's this because I God knows. No, when we, I do the speed tests and it's all fine. I don't understand. Anyway, so that's why I have become a complete hermit and not accepting any invitations at all to anywhere. I can't afford to miss this.
Although I do
deadline.
have to say, Chantal,
What have
I
you
have to
seen,
thank you for your
Chantal?
recommendation for Bad Surgeon, because I started watching that this week. And I am actually still very much only going through the first episode. But it's amazing, even watching the first episode, even knowing the premise, isn't it weird? I still can't see the evil in him. So that's how deceptive he was, how cunning he was. I assume one sees the evil as the episodes go on. But
there's a whole story to come.
No, I'm sure, but it's really doesn't it just go to show how incredibly deceptive he must have been if you're sort of watching a documentary when you know that it's only a documentary because he did wrong and he neglected his position. So anyone who hasn't seen this, by the way, Bad Surgeon, it's about this this Italian doctor who claimed to have some sort of miracle cure where he had managed to harvest and grow organs in a lab out of stem cells. Turns out it was the biggest con of the 21st century to some.
Well,
however,
apart from Elizabeth, whatever her name was, the
Elizabeth,
so-called blood expert.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I mean is
the
that sort of
phony who's now banged up for 12 years. Good.
Yeah. No. But what I mean is that sort of the fact that this deception still hasn't become obvious in the first episode is mind-blowing, because that's the whole premise of this documentary. He's supposed to be a confidence trickster. So that's obviously how clever he was.
No, it's a rattling yarn, as they say, and sad that it's true, but it's a good documentary and it's well made. So good, enjoy. See if you can get to the end. But no,
it's produced. The documentary is produced by my cousin's cousin. I don't know them; they're not part of my family. My cousin's cousin, they're close. That's who it's produced by. Weirdly enough.
How interesting.
Remember, I sent you a note in the week saying, have you heard of so and so? And you came back, no, I haven't. But wow, what a CV! That's him. My cousin's cousin. I didn't know that until last week. Came up on the phone. Weird. Anyway, there we are. Yeah,
amazing.
Elizabeth Green. It was Elizabeth David Herman. Correct, Glassy Amanda. David Herman. That is my cousin's cousin. Yeah. There we go.
Right. So actually, what you could say in this case, you could actually say, Russ, it's Herman.
Or your second cousin, one or the other.
No, I don't think he's my. We're not related in the least. I've never met him. I don't know I don't know.
Oh, okay, so it's a cousin's cousin by marriage, not by.
No. It's a proper cousin's cousin.
The cousins on the other side of their family. One would assume.
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, they all know each other. I don't know them at all.
Okay.
Apparently, jolly clever. Is Mr. David Herman. Sounds very, very clever. My friend's brother, says Glassy Amanda. God, this is 6 degrees of separation.
That's weird.
Well, Francine Walker. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go, carry on, Chantas.
No, well, I was going to tell you that I saw one of my very earliest clients from the 1980s this week. And in the 1980s, I used to work for a lovely showbiz publishing company a showbiz publicity company in the West End, run by an icon of film and television publicity. The most wonderful man called Theo Cowan, who was like the dad.
Oh my God, Theo Cowan, yes,
incredibly fond of,
yeah.
And in fact named my first son after Theo, because the name Theo always used to bring just such joy and sunshine into my life. So my first child was called Theo. Anyway, one of our clients was Michael Kane. And I worked a little bit on the publicity for Michael Kane in the 1980s before I went into television. And I had not seen him or spoken to him for nearly 40 years. And this week had the absolute pleasure to go round to his house on Tuesday, where he incredibly kindly signed a portrait of himself that had been created by the artist Lincoln Townley. And Lincoln had donated that to BAFTA. And I went round with the person who had bought the portrait.
Denise Welch's husband. Lincoln Townley.
Denise Welch's husband, Lincoln Townley, exactly. So that was the reason I went to see Michael for the first time in nearly 40 years. And took him photographs of Theo Cowan and I from what must have been, I think, 1986, probably something.
Oh, that
like
was the year I was born.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you?
Shut up!
I love saying that because it winds Russ up. Did I ever tell you my Michael Kane story? Because
tell us your Michael Kane story.
I'll make it as quick as possible. Basically, there's a firm of accountants who I used to look after their computers. And that firm of accountants, which remains nameless because obviously confidentiality, one of their clients used to be, I don't know if he still is, Michael Kane, happened to see him come out of the lift. No, sorry, I beg your pardon. Go into the lift as I was... no, I was right. Coming out of the lift as I was going into the lift. Anyway, opposite the lift was this electronically locked door. So you know one of these things you have to press a button to release it. Michael Caine couldn't get his hands. I mean, I thought he was going to blow the bloody doors off, but he couldn't quite get to grips. He couldn't quite get to grips with the fact that he had to press this button to release it. Anyway, so as he was farting about effing and blinding at this flaming thing, thinking he'd been trapped there indefinitely, I was just about to sort of get into the lift, and it dawned on him. He said, "Oh, it's a push button thing." He said this out loud. And as the lift doors were closing, I said, "Yeah, but not a lot of people know that." And as he turned around and gave me such evils. Thank God the doors shut in time, because I really could have had a very serious charge of GBH if given half a chance. So I'm very pleased that the lift saved me in that instance. I thought it was funny. He didn't.
No, I think you get points for that. Very quick thinking.
Oh,
anyway,
Phil, that is one
reason
of the
for telling you that. Yeah. No, the reason for telling that is just because I want everybody, if you've got time, to go and see, before it leaves the cinemas, a film called The Great Escaper, which reunited after 47 years, Glenda Jackson and Michael Caine. Michael playing the part of an 87-year-old man. Michael, in fact, is now 90. But here he plays the part of a true life story of a bloke called Bernard Jordan, who lived in a care home with his wife, played by Glenda Jackson, in Brighton, and in 2014 decided that he wanted to go to the D-Day 70th anniversary ceremony in northern France, but had missed out on going on the group tour, so basically couldn't go. It's called The Great Escaper because basically he goes, well, bugger this, and at 87 he gets himself on a bus, takes himself off to one of the ports locally, and thumbs a lift over to France. It's beautiful. It's sort of heaven seeing the two of them playing opposite each other. It's a sweet story. It's not going to blow the bloody doors off. But actually, this is the last role that Michael Caine is ever going to be in. He's now given up acting formally. So it's just a sweet, lovely film. Go and see it before it disappears out of the cinema.
Really, I can imagine you being like that, Russ, when you get to 87, please God. I could really imagine you getting very fed up of people around you just saying, "I've had enough of this," and off you go, and you just sort yourself out regardless.
Do you know what? I'm about a half a heartbeat away from it. Isn't Michael Caine just the most wonderful? But I haven't got enough words of praise for Michael Caine. Yeah. I love his films. I love his screen presence. Everything's always lifted by the fact that he's in the cast. It's just terrific. I've been a fan since like day one.
He's really such a gentleman. He looks fantastic for 90. Absolutely fantastic. His wife, Lady Shakira, is just beautiful. I mean, divinely good-looking woman. I think she's now in her late 70s. And she was Miss Guyana. Miss
she was Miss Guyana. And my dad, I always think of Michael Caine. My dad had the raging hots for her because she started off before they were married. Not my dad. My dad was never married to Michael Caine's wife. Point that out. Only in his dreams. He every time she came on, she did an advert for instant coffee when I was a kid. That's how she started, and that's I don't know how she and Michael Caine met, but anyway, she was this beautiful, exotic woman doing an advert for instant coffee, and she'd get the coffee and she'd shake the coffee, and every time it came on, and it was on high rotation, as you would say, Chantal, my dad would go, "What a creature! What a creature!" And he'd sit there, and I'd go, "Your dad, yeah, okay, all right, all right." Even I was embarrassed, and I don't embarrass the lad easily. Yeah, he was. So every time I think of Shakira Kane,
Was this in front of
think
your
of
mother?
my late dad, my poor mum.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I'm also going to suggest that this is a feel-good movie, and the next movie is also a feel-good movie, but it starts with a curmudgeon. I won't say who he reminds me of because we've all got a few curmudgeons in our life, but it's the new film with Paul Giamatti, and it's called The Holdovers. Just come out in cinema.
I love
I
him.
went to the screening last week with Paul Giamatti there. He was introduced by Damian Lewis, who he played opposite in Billions. Yeah. And there was a lovely reception beforehand. BAFTA members don't normally get, a glass of wine and a cup of tea and cakes and sandwiches, but we did this time. It was jolly lovely. And we sat and watched this absolutely delightful film with Paul Giamatti. It's 1970. He's in an American boarding school somewhere in New Hampshire or Connecticut.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and he is the grumpy classics master, a sort of traditionally shaped grumpy classics master who has nothing in his life but the classics. And he gets asked to stay at school over the Christmas holidays to look after the kids who aren't going home, i.e. they're being held over, hence the name, The Holdovers. So he starts off with, there's a cook there. There's another former colleague who pops in and out. He is the classics master, and it starts off with about 5 kids, and then it eventually whittles down at 4 of the kids disappear. Not sinisterly, but they leave the story.
Oh, I was going to say, that just suddenly got very interesting.
It's a murder mystery.
No, it's not. And then one young man stays behind, who is a young actor you will never have heard of because this is his very first film. He is already being talked about as an absolute film star of the future. And in this, he's completely brilliant. He'd literally never acted before, other than in school plays. And he was only found by the casting director when they were going around looking at the locations of where they were going to shoot. And this young man was there.
Wow. Is that not the stuff of dreams? Seriously, that's incredible.
Totally the stuff of dreams. He's a very good young actor. But
Fabulous.
His mother doesn't want him home for Christmas. So there's a reason why all of these young children are there. And his mother doesn't want him home.
I can really relate to that.
Yeah.
No, poor mum and dad.
Linda still phones me every day praying you never go back home.
Anyways, it's
Ray
a gorgeous
money.
story. It's a gorgeous story. They all go a bit rogue, is all I can say. And the curmudgeon turns out not to be quite the curmudgeon. And it's all.
Well, it sounds a little bit like almost like a remake of History Boys in some weird way.
Well, it's a bit of History Boys, and it's also a bit of what was the other one? In the boarding school. No, not To Sir with Love. No. I'm trying to think. It doesn't matter. But it's worth watching. I think it's going to become a Christmas classic. It's one of those things we'll watch over and over again. And it's really worth seeing, if only to see this incredible young man whose name I have now forgotten, which is Dominic Sessa is his name. So he is somebody who is being tipped for really great things.
Will be massive. It'll be the new Christian, not Christian Slater. Help me out. Batman.
Christian Bale.
Thank you. Because Christian Bale was a child actor, of course. I used to work with his mum, and she was charming. Nothing like Christian Bale. If you want to see a kid,
this lad is not a child actor. He went to drama classes at school. So
fabulous.
He was still a school student when they found him.
Oh, yeah. There's a wonderful little clip I happened to see yesterday, to just a bit of light relief. And it's Sylvester Stallone now up by the famous Rocky statue. And this little kid, I don't know if you see it, it's just on YouTube. This little kid comes up and starts doing the whole speech. So Sly Stallone, who just seems like a fabulous guy, starts doing the speech with him. So this little tot is doing the thing and the arms are going and he does the whole monologue from Rocky. And the people are just standing there. Look, it wasn't planned. The kid just saw his idol. He just saw his idol and he couldn't help himself. He's not an actor or anything, just a little kid. And it was just fantastic. It was so uplifting.
Amazing.
It kept me saying that and really silly parrot videos. Silly parrots are fantastic. It made me laugh so much because I need it at the moment. And there's a parrot on one side of a window in someone's house. And there's a cat on the other side of the window in someone's house. And the parrot is driving the cat mad because it's going, peekaboo! And then disappearing. And then coming back up, going, peekaboo! And coming back up. And the cat's getting more and more annoyed. And the parrot knows exactly what it's doing and just wants it.
You do
I now really want to remake this video. So what we have is the first two peekaboos come from the parrot. The third one comes from you, Russ, and the cat jumps back.
I think Russ needs to get out more.
I can't. When the book's delivered, before we get to editing, when the book is, I'll go berserk. But not until then. I can't.
Okay. Not until then.
Otherwise, I've got to wait another year. I can't do that.
Brilliant.
Well, I'm going to mention one more cinema film, just because the first two things I've mentioned were both cinema films. One more cinema film, which actually came out a few months ago. It's back in the cinema because everybody is talking it up as a possible contender for Oscars or BAFTAs, but actually it's very interesting. It did win the Palme d'Or in Cannes earlier on this year. It's a French movie. It's a bit like a cerebral. Do you remember that series called Murder One, which was a long court case that went over several, probably 10 or 20 episodes. It was about 20 years ago. It's rather similar to that because it's all about the death of a husband in a chalet in the mountains in France, while the wife.
We saw the trailer, you and I.
Oh, did we see the trailer? Okay.
You saw the trailer when you whisked me off to see whatever it was. Yeah, it was the trailer for it.
And the only witness is their blind son. And it sounds like one of those conundrums that you have to work out. And that's really how it plays out in the court case. It's called Anatomy of a Fall, which is a bit of a crappy title, to be honest.
It's a rubbish title,
in the cinemas at the moment. And it's worth going to see. It's quite cerebral. You have to sort of sit and listen. You have to concentrate. You're witnessing mainly a court case, but it's worth it. It's, and it has already won at Cannes, and they're tipping it for other international awards coming up.
Forgive me for laughing, but you see, you're using the word
cerebral do it anyway.
And concentrate, and then all I think about the cinema is next to you, and then people looking at their bloody phones the whole time, and the lights down. It's like you want to. I said, what? I always want to say, why don't you just stay at home? You want to look at your phone? Stay at home. Save
this
yourself
is what
20
I don't
quid.
understand. I've never understood that because it is without doubt. It's the most. This is the way I don't understand why people go to restaurants as well and they see friends and they're on their phones.
And theatre now.
Why do you do that? It's such an expensive way of doing it. Just be at home. You save yourself a fortune.
I know. And the new thing, if you go to the theatre, it's the same thing. The thing will start and they're on their phones. Well, you haven't got the nuclear launch codes on your phone. What could be so important? It's ridiculous.
Well, as you know, at BAFTA screenings, you're not allowed to talk. So
yes,
you have to have another BAFTA screening. But that takes me to the one that you and I did see a few weeks ago that we couldn't really talk about at the time because it wasn't out.
Yeah.
The Ronnie O'Sullivan documentary, which we mentioned very briefly, if you remember, but we didn't sort of get into the weeds of it because it hadn't at that stage gone on general release. But I think I saw that with you, didn't I, Russ?
No, it was another incredibly handsome man that you have on speed dial. I don't know. It wasn't me.
I thought you and I had seen that together. Well, I'm wrong.
God.
Oh, dear.
I
can't keep track with all of her
You see,
dates.
this is it. I am that insignificant in the life of Chantal Rickards that she has no recollection of what the hell she's ever done with me.
Insignificant.
God.
Hang on a second. How many BAFTA screenings have you both talked about each week? And Muggins here
Loads.
has never even heard of it, never been invited. So do me a
Loads.
favour.
I'm going to give all my tickets to Phil from now on.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks. Jeez. Could my
That is
life
the
Anyway.
right
be more
choice,
rubbish?
Chantal.
Yeah.
You will find your life is much happier as a result of that.
Perfect. Stand by for some emails. Did I mention the Ronnie
I
O'Sullivan
can hear
documentary
you, Phil.
before?
I can still hear you, by the way. No,
Did you mention
you've
the
never
Ronnie
mentioned the
O'Sullivan
Ronnie
documentary? I don't think
O'Sullivan.
so.
We
I don't
mentioned
recall Ronnie
Ferrari, which
O'Sullivan.
we weren't allowed to talk about.
Oh, right.
No.
Well, at some stage, we'll have to go back to that.
I liked his songs. Claire was really good. Claire, that was one of his best songs. And the Alone Again, naturally, that was a good one. Good old
Gilbert,
Ronnie
yeah.
O'Sullivan.
This is Ronnie
Yeah.
O'Sullivan.
No, Gilbert O'Sullivan's a snooker player.
Naturally.
No, well, when I went to see it, I thought either that this is the documentary about somebody in the horse racing world, or it's a snooker player. I really wasn't sure because the sport is not my thing. But
This is a
surprisingly,
woman
it's
with an OBE, by the way.
It's a very good
Okay.
documentary. Now, not according to your friends on Facebook, with whom I take issue because they completely slammed it earlier on in the week. But they're
did they?
wrong.
I
It's a
didn't
very
see
good
any of that.
documentary.
Okay, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. You look up some of your friends who are friends of
I have no
yours.
friends.
who are Now, friends
Phil's
of
my
mine.
best
Anyway.
friend, and he doesn't like me. So that shows you the entire mirror to my life.
Well, Ronnie
Who are
O'Sullivan.
you
is-
again?
I don't know. I've no idea. I've completely lost the plot. I've no idea.
Well,
It's
you
Ronnie
gave-
O'Sullivan.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, yeah, it's called The Edge of Everything. He is the world number one. He's been number one forever and a day.
Right.
He suffered with mental unwellness in his life. So, and interestingly, he talks about depression, and there are not lots of scenes, but quite a few scenes of him talking to his psychiatrist, which is
Oh,
a very
wow.
different start from how we see most of these icons in our lives.
Yeah.
And he's very candid about it. And he also talks very candidly about the fact that his father went to jail for murder, which
Oh my
was
God.
Good
absolutely
gracious.
part of his life story. I didn't know any part of his life
Blimey.
story, but that certainly made it very, very different and very standout for me. He's
Can I just
Mm.
check, is this like a sort of a docu-film as opposed to it's someone reenacting?
it's a documentary, and it's
Yeah.
on Prime, and it's in the cinema. So it's a full-length documentary feature,
Mm-hmm.
which you can see on Prime and you can see at the movies. And I think seeing it on Prime is fine. You don't get any more out of the big screen experience.
Not
You
like
know, it's
Ferrari.
Table.
Ooh.
But the snooker sequences, even I was really interested in, was he going to win or wasn't he going to win? And so it all starts in 2022 when he is it's the World Snooker Championship competition or something. But it's worth watching. It's really worth watching. I thought
That's
it was
good.
very well made. And he's funny. He's a very engaging character. And he just talks incredibly openly about his life. And I think you get sucked in by his complete charm, but also his fragility and his vulnerability, which I thought was lovely. Anyway.
Graham Pack says he saw it and he thought it was a load of
Graham Pack's in form.
snooker
Oh.
balls.
Did he
Spherical
think it was a
objects.
load?
That's
Oh,
so
dear.
rude, Graham
Sorry about
Pack.
I think what he's
Yeah.
talking. I
But
think he's
Françoise
talking about.
Pascal is
snooker
saying,
balls.
what
I think
is
he's
the
trying to be
docu called again?
It
Qu'est-ce que c'est
is
le
called
nom?
Ronnie O'Sullivan, The Edge of Everything, which again, it's like, why do people put these crappy titles on things? That means nothing.
Because it's a play. I think it's a play on the edge of the table when you're playing the shot off the edge. And there was a film, wasn't there, or a book called The Edge of Reason?
I was going to say, I think
So
it's a
I think
snooker
that's like-
reference.
Yeah,
In
it's
that
the edge
case,
of everything. So it's an
That
edge.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. If
Yeah.
you don't
I mean,
watch
why
this,
did they
like-
call that
I think it
film
would have been worse
Ferrari?
if they'd have called it "It's All Gone to Pot." But anyway,
Hey!
and on that note, Chantal, thank you so much.
I need to
as
speak to you,
ever.
Chantal, after the show.
Oh,
Okay.
I
I
see.
do.
Oh,
No, I
oh,
just
that's
got to ask you a
told.
question. I have to ask you
Right.
a question.
Gracious
All right.
me.
I don't need to speak to
She
her.
might be in trouble. Okay, right.
No, she's
anyway.
not in trouble. I really need. I need her help. I need to ask a question. That's all. That's all.
Thanks, Chantal. See you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Bye, everybody.
Happy
I'll be
weekend
back
to you as
on-
well. Bye bye. Right.
Bye,
okay.
everyone.
Speaking of happy weekend, that's kind of it for another one. I mean,
That's it.
goodness only knows how we rumbled our way through that one, but there you have it.
Well, we did.
We did.
Good luck.
You're back on Monday.
I'm back on Monday, and Phil and I are on. When are we on? When are we doing a big, huge national show? We're doing. When is that?
Oh,
When's
that. Oh, gracious me. We're flat run out of time. We can't talk about that, but I think we're supposed to be doing Christmas Eve together, aren't we?
I think Phil and I are on a national radio. They've bit the bullet. All right. See you, everybody.
Bye, everybody. We're very late, so we'll